Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the fourth in our series of MEA-focused webinars that we've been hosting this week. Today, we are here to talk about the extended stay sector and all the various subdivisions of that, and we've got a fantastic panel here to do so. My name is George Sell. I'm Editor-in-Chief at International Hospitality Media, and we are a publisher of B2B news websites for the hospitality and real estate sectors, and we also organise conferences and awards. Today's webinar is going to last an hour. If you've got any questions for our panel, then please do submit them using the chat or the Q&A functions in Zoom, and we'll either answer them at the time or we'll save a bit of time at the end of the session to get round to them. If you've registered for the session, then you will be sent a link to a recording of it via email in the next couple of days. Now this, as I say, we've had a webinar every day this week so far, all focusing on the MEA market, and these have all been sponsored by Rove Hotels, and we're just going to watch a short video to find out more about them. So thank you to Rove Hotels. If you'd like to find out more, then you can see some contact details in the chat. And there's going to be quite a lot of information posted in the chat today. And when we get to the end of the session in an hour, we'll just leave it open for a couple of minutes so you can take some notes of all the info that's in there. So before we get going, I just wanted to show some screen grabs from stories we've run on our service department news website about the kind of products, the kind of markets that we're going to be discussing today. So as you can see here, some of the big international hotel brands are establishing properties in MEA. We've got Hyatt House making its African debut. We've got a Marriott brand in Qatar. We've got Adagio, which is a JV between Accor and Pierre Vacances in North Africa and Dubai. If we flick onto the next slide, some more names that a lot of you will know. Cheval, we've got Daniel here from Cheval to talk more about what they're up to. We've got Ascot. And there's a lot of different markets covered here, as well as Dubai. We've got Egypt and Doha as well. There's a lot going on, which we will find out about shortly from our fantastic panel. So I'm going to ask the guys to introduce themselves in turn. And we'll go from left to right as we see them on the graphic there. So first of all, William, welcome to you. Tell us a bit about what you do at Trianum Hospitality. I think you're still on mute, William. William, we can't hear you. There's something strange going on there. Hold on for a second. David, let's go to you first. If you could just do a quick and see what's happening there.
Yeah, well, good afternoon, good evening, I should say, everybody. Yes, my name is David Thomson. I work for the First Group. We were actually established here in Dubai in 2005. And the original model behind the First Group was to develop apartments and residences, sell off those individual units to investors and run them on their behalf. We then moved into the hotel apartment sphere, We have three hotel apartments that we currently operate under the same sort of model. And then we moved into hotel world. So we currently have 18 projects that which we've completed here in Dubai. We run 10 hotels within that and hotel apartments. And we're now just expanding our white label operation into other markets. We are opening in Jeddah before the end of the year. And we're also in Ajman looking after health and wellness resort Zoya. And we are about to sign for a property in Egypt as well. So again, residences and hotels, so hotel apartments and residences there. So yeah, we're rapidly expanding. We continue to grow. We have at the moment, we currently have a 1470 residences. We've got over 3,000 hotel rooms with another 2,600 due to open in the next 2 years, including the world's tallest hotel, which is going to be the CL Tower, which is in the marina. That is going to be 1,004 rooms. And as I say, will be the world's tallest hotel, which we will operate. And then we have presently 34 restaurants in our portfolio, and with another 37 again planned for the next 24 months. And doesn't include any hotels that we may, management contracts that we may bring in. So we've been pretty busy since 2005, and we continue to grow very quickly. And obviously the whole residence service apartment branded residence market is something that we're extremely interested in and involved in.
Yeah, great stuff. Thank you, David. Daniel, let's come to you first in wild and windy Cornwall, and then we'll see if we can get back to William.
Thank you, George. Yeah, so I'm Daniel Johansson. I head up development for Cheval Collection, and we are a service department operator. It started 40 years ago in London, primarily as an owner-operator, but we are growing through management agreements. And we have 16 projects today, where 13 are operational. And they're spread across London, Edinburgh, and Dubai. We have 9 in London, 3 up in Edinburgh, and 1 in Dubai, which we opened in April of this year. We've also got another couple of developments on the go, 2 in Glasgow, and another one in Dubai, which we will announce next month. We have 3 defined brands. And from a luxury offering, Cheval Residences to Cheval Maison, and then also more of a lifestyle, smaller apartments with some F&B offering called My Locanda. And we are based out of London.
Excellent. Thank you, Daniel. William, let's see if we can hear from you now.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
Great. Apologies for that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the to be here. I run a company or business development side of it called Trianum Hospitality. We are based out of East Africa. We currently have 5 properties, and we are looking at expanding to about 3 properties by the end of the year. We do third-party management for service apartments and hotels. We also are the first in Africa to have a third-party tripartite kind of brand with a brand associated with the brand, which is the Best Western Executive Residency by Best Western. We have a portfolio of about 120 units in the whole properties that we run. And we do look at other projects that we do. We do technical services, project planning, pre-opening of hotels, and as well as management of the hotels. So currently, like I mentioned, we're looking at 3 extra hotels within the close of the year. We're already just about signing 2 this month, and 1 hopefully at the end of the year. So pleasure to be a part of the group, and thank you very much.
Thank you, William. Okay, so let's start by trying to define some of the various types of property that come under this extended stay banner, because there are quite a few, and which ones are currently popular with travelers in the MEA region. So, David, let's talk first about branded residences and that whole concept in Dubai, how that's grown and what the kind of situation is there at the moment.
Well, I think I'm right in saying that Dubai has the highest concentration of branded residences in the world at the moment. So, I mean, it's been phenomenal to see the growth here that's taken place. I mean, you've got everything from Bugatti, Bulgari, Armani. So most of this is very, very high-end luxury that we're talking about. Obviously, the Dorchester opening. So some Regis. I've got a list here actually: Palazzo, Versace. As I say, Amali, the Ritz-Carlton residences, SLS residences, it goes on. So there's it is incredible how branded residences have taken off. And what you generally find, certainly with the GCC market, is that about 40% of that is generally people who are purchasing these as an investment because of the high levels of returns that their expectations are that they're going to get back from those. And then you're looking at, certainly from the KSA point of view, more like 20% are expecting to then live in them themselves. So it's an interesting mix, but it's certainly become extremely popular in this part of the world, sure. And you're seeing it now developed a lot more in Saudi, which is obviously the biggest sort of growing market in the GCC at the moment.
Mm. And David, would the majority of these developments have a kind of property manager in place who would put these units in a pool and operate them just like hotel apartments? And
for the majority, as I say, a lot of these people are straightforward investment. So yes, that most of them have operators or asset management, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
And who's staying in them, David? And what's the kind of typical length of stay if you compare it with, say, a service department in London? Who's using these branded residences?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's a significant difference between sort of the branded residence and the service department over here, and I'm sure Daniel will be able to talk to that. So the branded residents tend to be more long term. So you're looking at people that are coming in who are taking these on for a year, 12 months, 6 months to 12 months. Whereas the service or hotel apartments are generally a lot shorter than that, really three months or less. So when you're looking at, I mean, obviously, the UAE particularly has seen a large influx from the Russian market here. Most of the investors, or majority, not most of the investors, a large proportion of the investors are from Saudi Arabia even though they're now focusing on their own market as well. But yeah, so those are the two principal markets that are investing. Obviously, the Indian market is huge for the UAE. So you're seeing quite a lot of investment there. But as I say, really, you're looking at Russia, Saudi, and India as the key investors into these markets. And then the people that are staying in them are really a broad range of anybody who's doing business in this part of the world. So very much multicultural, obviously all high net worth, just simply by the fact the rates are so high.
Yeah. And just one more question on these for you, David. When there is such a prevalence of brands in this space, how would a developer or an investor choose a brand to partner with? What are they looking for, and how does the deal work?
Yeah, I think again, there's a difference between the sort of hotel apartments and the branded residences. I mean, I think obviously if you like, the bigger the name or the more luxurious the brand. I mean, that's that is what is being the main driver, certainly in the UAE at the moment. As I say, there is a list of 40 branded residences that are either already here or coming, which are all very high-end luxury. And so I think there is a bit of a scramble now for who can get what name onto what building. And every week we see a new announcement of a more luxurious property. So it's quite exciting from that point of view. When you look over in Saudi Arabia, that is slowly beginning to happen. It's not been at the same level here, but it is happening over there as well. So and again, that's a much more developing market rather than developed market. So you're going to see that will come on over the next 2 or 3 years, really very rapidly. And again, it's going to be the big luxurious brand names. They've already got to the point where hotels, you're almost saturated with the luxury hotel brand names over in Saudi at the moment, to the point where they're sort of persuading people who are regarded as luxury in other parts of the world who haven't actually had an expansion strategy are now being asked to sort of come into Saudi to add to the existing luxury collections that are there. So it's very interesting. But as I say, it's been fascinating to see how these high, really uber luxury brands have been coming in and their names appearing on residences.
And has it got to the stage where you can charge a premium if you've got one of these brands associated with your development, or is it more that if you don't?
Oh no, for sure.
You're left behind.
Definitely. Yeah. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Thanks.
you're seeing significant differences between non-branded and branded residences in terms of what they're able to command, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, David. Daniel, Cheval's had a lot of experience in the London market, as you mentioned, and relatively new in Dubai. How does the product and the guest demographic differ between the two markets, or is it very much that you have an international client base that moves around between the two?
I mean, it's not, obviously it's different, and we're delighted to have opened finally now in Dubai. So as you say, we've been in London primarily, where you have a huge international mix of guests, of course, and the length of stay depends a little bit also where you are in London. And in Edinburgh, obviously, naturally, there's quite a high US nationality mix coming in. But for Dubai, and only taking into context, we've only been open since April, we have our top nationality is the UK. So our awareness there is quite interesting. And then it's Russia, France, UAE, and the US, and as well as some Saudi and the GCC. We have also interesting facts that it's mainly leisure, and perhaps that's because we're on the trunk of the palm, but it's mainly leisure, and I would say it's about 70% short stay. We're then leaving the rest for a longer stay. So short stay we would define less than 30 nights or up to 30 nights. And then you have the 1 to 3, 6 to 9, and even longer. And it's that we actually seeing a big demand for that really long stay, that 6 to 9 and beyond, to a point where we have to kind of restrict a bit of that business. So it's taking up about 10% of our business at the moment, but it could be much bigger. But because it's leisure driven and we can drive a better ADR on the short stay, that's obviously what we're trying to do. So there's a difference, but certainly Dubai is fantastic for occupancy.
Yeah. And how does the physical product differ, if at all? And when you're looking for an ideal property to manage in Dubai, are you looking for different things than you would be if from a London property, for example?
Well, the product is, I mean, we call all of our 3 brands. The offering is service apartments, but in the UAE and perhaps elsewhere as well in the Middle East, it's more commonly known as a hotel apartment. And but for us, all it means is we're in one building and we can rent these apartments on both a short and a long stay basis. I'm sorry, there was a second part of your question as well. I'm not sure what that was.
Well, I'm interested to know how you evaluate a product. I mean,
I mean, there is the one we open now was a conversion from residential.
Okay.
But we are looking at projects throughout the Middle East, but primarily in Dubai, which are both new build and conversions. So this was conversion from residential. The next project in Dubai is a building already built, but for a different purpose. So it was kind of hospitality, but not fully developed. So that we will turn into service apartments. And we see generally a very good appetite for it. And there's good investor developer and obviously the guest demand for it.
And are you looking to expand beyond Dubai in the Gulf, Daniel, or are you just concentrating on Dubai for now?
No, we would love to. I mean, I think it's quite important strategically to start almost in Dubai if you want to spread wider in the Middle East, and developers and investors so can see what you're doing and can go visit a product. But no, definitely we would like to go to Bahrain, to Saudi, to Kuwait, Qatar, and so on, and throughout the region. That is our plan, and that's what we're working on. And just picking up on this point about Saudi, and yes, on many of the larger scale developments, those developers were very keen to go in with the very well-known luxury brands. But I'm seeing a little bit of an opening in conversations now where they also need to introduce some diversity and going in then to service departments, and also, as David said, other brands too. But it's interesting to see just the service department conversation now, or hotel apartment is coming up in conversation finally.
David, on that subject, obviously in Saudi, you've got all these enormous and ambitious projects happening, and that's going to take a lot of human resource to get those delivered. And these people need somewhere to stay. I mean, we've seen in the US, for example, the extended stay hotel brands at a sort of lower to mid price point, traded all the way through the pandemic with no significant drop off in occupancy because things like infrastructure didn't really stop. Is there a market in these areas where these huge projects are going on for a kind of upper economy to mid-scale product to actually house all the people who are getting the other stuff, the luxurious and the ambitious stuff delivered?
Yeah, no, I think that potentially there is. I mean, you were saying, I mean, we run 3 hotel apartments or service apartments, as the hotel apartments are called over here in Dubai. And again, talking about the pandemic, we continued, we had them open all the way through, and I don't think there's ever been a time when their occupancy has dropped sort of below sort of 90% actually in the last couple of years. So they're doing extremely well, and I think there is definitely an opportunity there in Saudi Arabia, and there's already quite a number of the brands are bringing in hotel apartments into Saudi. They're pretty well established already. In fact, I think about 20% of the Saudi market actually, because they've got a big internal domestic market. I think around 65% of the people make at least 3 trips internally a year. So it's in terms of from a leisure travel point of view. So there is a huge market for that, and I think 20% of all stays in Saudi Arabia are actually in hotel apartments. So it is already a big market, and as you say, I mean, ideal for these sort of major projects to start sort of capitalizing on that and bringing in more hotel apartments, and that's certainly something that we're looking at ourselves. So most definitely. Yeah.
And similar question to you, to the one I put to Daniel. You're very well established in Dubai. You're in Saudi. Is there anywhere else that you're looking at, or is the scope for expansion too great in those markets to look elsewhere?
No, I mean, I think Egypt is another fantastic market at the moment, and it's certainly it's incredible the amount of investment that the government are putting into their own infrastructure over there, and so there's very big opportunities there as well. And then obviously they're building the new capital just outside Cairo, or connected to Cairo, which is going to be massive. It's going to have at least 6 million people will live there eventually. That there are massive opportunities there. It's a great market to be in, and of course we're looking to expand in Saudi Arabia as well. I think those are the key markets at the moment. I mean, Oman as well. As that really embraces tourism, that is again, you see there's a lot of development going on in Oman, and a lot of opportunity for hotel apartments, of which actually there are already quite a lot in the Oman market.
Yeah. Thank you, David. William, can you tell us a bit about the Kenyan and the broader East African market? How well established is the service department and extended stay hotel concept, and how is it growing?
Yes, thank you. It's growing quite quickly. The larger luxury brands, Marriott and Accor, they're looking into developing within certain regions which have quite a number of projections which are looking very good. Just to name a few, like South Africa is looking so good for the market, as well as Ethiopia and the North African countries. Nigeria, Kenya, and Mauritius are also growing very big. Just to give you a bit of statistics, the larger brands are looking at about 30% growth in the next 2 years within the hotel sector. Roughly because just after COVID, there's a big boost of people now traveling back into the countries. About 2 million tourists traveling back to Kenya, for example, in 2023 period. So that's giving a lot of investor confidence, and with the outlook of about 5 to 6% growth projections and profitability within the sector. I mean, it looks big. PwC is also giving very good figures in terms of just the Mauritius and Ethiopian pipeline. Is about up to 20 hotels opening up within the region within this period. So The reason I think mostly is because there's a young population in Africa, and it's pegged that in the year 2040, by the year 2040, Africa will have at least 10 cities which will have 10 million and above population. So if you look at that in terms of a sense of investor kind of outlook, then the projections look much brighter in future.
Mm. And as well as the international brands that you mentioned, we've started seeing domestic players start up, and we've run stories about developers and operators in Egypt, in Nigeria, in Kenya. Is this something that's gaining traction now as well?
Yes, it is merger and acquisitions, mostly acquisitions. If we look at what happened, like for example, Southern Sun, Togo Sun Hotels was, taken over by Casada Albatross. So it's more on the acquisition side more rather than mergers. And we unfortunately have seen a shutdown of big hotels. For example, in Kenya, the Intercontinental Group and the Hilton Group pulled out with a big inventory of about 600 rooms. So that's kind of a sad story, because they've been here for more than 15, 16 years or so. There's a lot of acquisitions coming in, and that's, I think, the trend that's mostly within the East African region. So that's what I can have input on.
Thank you, William. David, how strong is investor appetite for this product compared with other hospitality and indeed residential asset classes in the MEA?
No, I think it's it's very strong. I mean, the great thing about and this is goes back to what to Daniel was saying as well. The great thing about the hotel apartment or service apartment side of the business is that your occupancies tend to be extremely high. You can manage them in terms of short term versus long term. So what we tend to do is try and sort of have more extended stays over the summer period, when the business generally sort of falls away a little bit. Particularly as a lot of ours are more focused on corporate than they are on leisure. And then obviously look more to the short term during the higher months of the year. So you can get good ADRs, very solid performances in terms of occupancy, and therefore they are great investment, good return on investment, and consistent return on investment. I think that's important. As I say, in fact, I think pretty much all the hotel apartments in Dubai stayed open throughout COVID, whereas a lot of the hotels had to close. So again, this shows the resilience of that particular market, and from an investor's point of view, it's great. So it's good.
I would only echo that it still seems somewhat on the rise, though. It certainly caught the attention, but I think the even more better product there is out there, the more the developers and investors will look to it as well, because the guests' demand is there already. But even though there is a high quality in Dubai, I find that there isn't that much really exciting product. There are some standout, definitely there are some good ones, but just generally speaking, this goes for Europe as well, and in the UK, just generally speaking, that the more better product there is out there, the better it will be for all those in hotel apartment space.
Yeah. Thank you. David, we mentioned earlier that the rate of development in Dubai has been phenomenal. There are new projects appearing all the time. But Dubai is not immune to issues such as inflation, interest rates, and the cost of labor, materials. The cost of development generally has gone up. Has that slowed things down? I mean, it
doesn't seem to have done, that's for sure. But no, there's no doubt that cost of living here has gone up for sure. I mean, no one's immune from what's happening in the rest of the world. Being very much in the center of the world here, it's we're impacted by construction costs, the price of foodstuffs, everything really. So yes, I mean there has been obviously significant increase in the cost of living, but it hasn't slowed anything down as far as I could tell. Everything is still full steam ahead. And if anything, you're seeing a lot of land that just previously lay dormant for some time being now, repurposed, or, buildings are being repurposed, to make them more financially viable, and new buildings are certainly still coming up everywhere you look. So, I think it's fairly safe to say that Dubai is still going at 100 miles an hour, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. I mean, it's an incredible evergreen market here. I've been here for many years through all sorts of crises, and it's always bounced back faster than anywhere else in the world. It's quite incredible, really. And it's because the environment here is very, very conducive to encouraging, investment and businesses to it's a free market economy in its truest sense, and so it works very well.
It sometimes feels like for every economic cycle we go through in Europe, Dubai's had 5 or 6 in that time, but everything happens quicker. But in all seriousness, it does feel here as if a lot of development across a lot of asset classes has paused while people are looking around to see where interest rates are going. A lot of projects that have got planning consent aren't economically viable anymore because it's taken so long to go through planning that the numbers have changed. So it's good to hear that things are going full steam ahead in other markets. William, sure. What's the development scenario like in the African market generally? Is it buoyant?
Well, we have a potential down market pressures, the interest rate increases are driving up the cost of capital on both debt and equity. So for investors, that's something very concerning, as well as, of course, the rate increases, interest rates increase the requirements which are required for that. So there's adjusted asset value in terms of property values. There's, of course, different turbulent markets within Africa, which sometimes maybe not the best to finance for banking, for example, or debt. And so equity is looking quite shaky at the moment, but we still have, quite a bit of international investors coming in, and they are putting in, the heavy funds. So it's positive in the long term. The short term, domestic players are keeping all their cards to their chest. So yeah, it's not as vibrant as David, and Daniel knew in the Middle East.
What is the investor profile, William? Are we talking about venture capital here, or family offices, sovereign wealth funds? Who's getting involved in the market over there?
It's quite vast, and we even seen different people like telecommunication companies coming in. Venture capitalists from Saudis also who have actually done some investments here. So it's quite vast, and I'd say it's mostly within the European and American continent. So the American continent looks very interested in African development.
Mm-hmm. And we lost you for a couple of minutes earlier, William, but we were talking about who the customer is for the product, and the locations you mentioned earlier were quite diverse, from Mauritius to Egypt to Nigeria. So presumably that means there's also quite a broad spectrum of end user. I mean, I can't imagine the people going to Mauritius are the same people going to stay in a business hotel in Nairobi, for example. Could you talk to us a bit more about where the demand is coming from? Oh, we've lost your sound again, William.
Okay.
Yep, you're back.
What we've noticed after COVID, we found out that many people are doing leisure kind of travel. So they are doing vacations, and we've noticed that they would like to go somewhere where they can relax at the same time work. So we're getting very many different business travelers who usually either having excursions at the end of the travel, 3 to 4 days, then they have planning to go for a weekend out or an excursion. I was just up country in the coast this week, and the coastal region, there were quite a number of business travelers, but you would tell that the age group is so much younger. It's almost backpackers, adventure travelers kind of feel, in terms of the business traveler has kind of changed their way. Is no longer this gentleman in suits and so forth. They're kind of changing and also traveling with families. So it's a very different market now. So it's how do we package and ensure that the family is incorporated in the offering that we give. So I think the leisure market is really growing, and we are looking and tapping into as much as we can. So yeah, that's something we're looking into. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, William. Daniel, one of the phenomenons in the European market over the last few years has been the rise of the branded apart hotel. You know, quite shorter stay, design led, but not at the same price point as, you know, the branded residences that we were talking about earlier. Is this a concept that you think can be exported successfully to the UAE?
Oh, definitely. And I think there are some players already in that space. So what we have created and launched last year, and it was in the works a couple of years before that, is that lifestyle offering. I mean, lifestyle, it might not be the right word, but it's a description widely used. So in comparison to our luxury offering, this is where you have a much smaller apartment, a completely different price point, so it's more affordable entry point. And as your apartment is smaller, we activate the public spaces with some F&B, some ability to work, and so on. And whilst actually you do that to an extent anyway with almost all products in Dubai and the UAE, where you have a pool and some level of F&B, and we by contrast, we don't have to do that as much in London and elsewhere. You tend to activate it just slightly different for different reasons. It's because your apartment is quite small, so you compensate by giving nice extra space to be in. But I see that being very something that's going to go very strong and go forward with some speed. Just taking a share of that more affordable entry point, as I said, and the product. So you're driving quite a high key count within the same GIA that you're given.
Was this the My Locanda brand that you were referring to?
Yes. So we have developed and launched My Locanda last year, and that's basically a description of that brand.
Yeah.
But I think there are definitely other players out there that are doing a similar thing, but not that many. So there is a lot of white space, and there's definitely room for many more.
So how has that particular brand been received in the conversations you've been having out in the UAE?
No, very good, very positive. Although primarily the ones we've had in discussion have been on the luxury side, and it's actually on the flip side, and still amazes me that actually we're talking about very generally sized apartments, and the trend seems to be going in the luxury space that they're getting even bigger. So whilst we're coming in and describing My Locanda, I think even in that concept, we are increasing our sizes to be suitable for Dubai. So where we're guiding 25 square meters, 25, 30, and 40, you can easily add on another 5 to 10 square meter in each of those categories. And where we're guiding 60 square meters for a one bed for our Cheval residences in London, you can go 90 to 110 in Dubai. But to answer your question in short, there's still good appetite for that, and I hopefully it won't be too long until we can announce something.
Okay, watch this space.
Yeah.
David, does this increase in unit size that Daniel's describing, are you seeing that as well? Does that sum up the development scene at the moment?
Yeah, it's always been, I mean, you know, across the board here, I think it's fairly safe to say that, you know, whether it's a hotel room or a hotel, you know, a hotel apartment, service apartment, whatever, you know, size does matter here for sure. And you know, so hotel rooms tend to be very generous. You know, there has been a rethink in the last few years trying to sort of slightly move the needle so that, you know, we can change the requirement of 5-star hotels not to be sort of a minimum of 40 square meters or whatever it was that it used to be. But that has now come down slightly, but not a lot. But that is the market, yeah, very much so. I mean, and I think it's fairly safe to say that, you know, if you stay in an ordinary 4-star hotel here in Dubai, you know, that's going to be the equivalent of pretty much most 5-star hotels in other cities of the world. So it's just things are you know, kept at a different level, and you know, as a result of that, you know, what the guest satisfaction is huge. You know, and if you can deliver fantastic service along with what is a great product and a large product, then it's a win-win, and that's why Dubai is really so successful, I think. And that's very much driven by the government, you know, in terms of the DTCM and Dubai tourism, what have you.
Daniel mentioned that Cheval's first property in Dubai is a conversion from what was originally designed as a straight resi product. Is this something that's happening a lot? Is there a lot of inventory out there which is able to pivot from one use to the other?
Yeah, so quite a lot of it's been repurposed. We're actually opening, we have our own brand, the First Collection, which is a hotel brand. And we're actually opening our third one on the 11th of November. So a week tomorrow, or a week Saturday. And that was a building that was repurposed. Originally, it was a apartment, and we converted that into a hotel. So it is happening, yes, definitely. And I think you'll find that there's going to be a lot more hotels a lot more apartment buildings that potentially go to hotel apartment buildings. You know, assuming that they have the right infrastructure already in place to be able to do that, because you do need to have some kind of food and beverage offering and leisure facilities and what have you.
Yeah. Daniel, do you anticipate that future projects that you're working on will be conversions, or are you looking to work with developers to get involved from the ground up?
We have, so the one we have on the Palm now was a conversion. The next one we have signed is a conversion, but then we have something else that is new build. And there's beauty in both. In that conversion can be very quick to markets. It was exceptionally fast, and only in Dubai can you go as fast, I would say, to do the first one on the Palm, and the second will have at least some of the floors and the public spaces open even for the end of next year. So again, super fast. And then with the new build we're looking at, if that goes forward, would be an exceptional product and fairly large development. So you then, almost unfortunately, you're looking at 2 to 3, maybe even plus years. But if there's one place where it will be built fast, it's certainly in Dubai.
Yeah. You've probably gone a long way to answering my next question here, but are there any legislative or planning challenges involved in getting these schemes off the ground? It sounds as if it's reasonably straightforward from the speed in which they're being delivered.
I think from residential, you certainly have to get the license in place then to like a hotel permission to be able to deliver on short stay as well as long stay. And what we do, just cover a more general point on sort of rules and regulations and so on. We would go and seek local legal advice on each territory that we're looking into, because you have to be very careful also when you're signing a guest up on 6 months or 12 months versus just saying for one night. So we would get some legal advice on each territory that we're looking into. The UAE is fantastic in providing the right guidance, and it can be fairly quick, providing also you're working with the right owner. And of course, you always want to find the right partner and owner to work with, but they can, most of the time, be quite influential in pushing these permissions through fairly fast.
Mm-hmm. So you're typically partnering with local investors and developers rather than the global financial houses?
Thus far, yes. Yeah. But it's not to say that there may be other investors coming along, but so far, yeah, there's been local developers that really know and understand the market and often have planning permission and have a plan to do what they set out to do. And we come into a conversation, ideally as early as possible, but we come into a conversation where we can be one of the operator solutions.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. William, are there any areas in the African market where planning and legislation is a hurdle? Presumably, policies vary quite a bit from one country to the next. No, we have no sound again, William. Try again.
Yes, definitely. We do have quite a number of regulations, especially because of the international investment policies in place. So it all depends. They just need to be careful when they're putting in any capital, that they have management agreements in place, joint ventures or any acquisitions, that all documentation and any provisions within the law are met beforehand. There is mostly different kind of laws between different jurisdictions, so it's quite important that any investment then look at that. Of course, as well as we have a lot of ESG goals coming in and regulations from the government. So LEED certification now is becoming very important in terms of energy systems, which need to be placed, and also fire and health safety requirements. The government is very strict on compliance in terms of all these issues, and going green is the way to go. So investors are encouraged to just look at LEED certification as part of building requirements or any investment that they're doing, whether it's conversions, whether it's acquisitions.
Yeah, thank you, William.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. Actually, David, we haven't touched on sustainability, which is probably the first time I've got 50 minutes into a webinar and not touched on it. How high up the agenda is building sustainability and ESG in the built environment in the Gulf as a whole?
Oh, very high, very high. I mean, they, in all markets, not just in the UAE, but also in Saudi Arabia as well. They're very strict building codes now in place, which ensure that you are a green building as much as you can be. And I think it's front of mind. Obviously, we've got COP28 coming up here in the UAE, which we're hosting at Expo in Dubai. And yeah, I mean, this has been a topic of conversation now for front of mind for at least 5 or 6 years in the UAE when it comes to building. So yeah, very much so, and Saudi's also reflecting that as well. So it's critical, I think, that the buildings are being failing now to be as green as possible. Minimum use of energy, or the best use of energy, particularly in this market, where obviously energy is and cooling and all the rest of it is paramount. So yeah, it's front of mind and enforced quite rigorously as well. So which is very good.
So the oil producing companies are going some way to driving the kind of post-oil built environment, which is it's
yeah, very much so, yeah.
Okay, so let's move on and talk about some interesting brands in the space. And we've already mentioned that there are different tiers. We've got the branded residences, we've got the hotel apartments, we've got extended stay hotels. I'd like to ask you all in turn to tell the audience about a couple of brands that you think are really exciting. You can have one of your own and one of somebody else's. So Daniel, let's kick off with you.
Well, if we are to mention our own, I would mention that Cheval Maison has been particularly successful for Dubai, because whilst we would like to introduce Cheval Residences as our prime luxury offering, there's just been some requirement needed for flexibility, and Cheval Maison offers that flexibility, whether it's the unit sizes, the spec within the apartment, or the micro location itself. So Cheval Maison has been very good on that front. We're trying to protect Cheval Residences as much as possible. I think I touched on earlier that I think the more product there is out there, the better. If we are to mention other brands, just when we were looking around, we found that Jumeirah Living is doing a great job, the Address is doing a great job, and I'm sure First Group is doing a fantastic job. But you start, and many of the bigger brands, they're there. Absolutely, they're there. But you go and try and stay in the product, and the hotel apartment product just seems to be a little lost. There's sort of kind of no soul, there's no vibe. You stay in this apartment and it feels quite dreary almost. So you then know, you get your confidence that you can do something fantastic.
Interesting. David, I'll come to you in a minute. William, tell us about some brands in the African market that we should be keeping an eye out for.
Yes, so Best Western, one of them that we manage, we partner manage. looks to be growing very exponentially. They're looking mostly within East Africa, but the numbers tell that they're actually looking all around the African continent. And they're looking at different brands, and they're even trying to introduce new extended stay branding. So that's very interesting for us because we are in negotiations for about 2 properties that we currently run, and they're looking at new concepts. So we find that very interesting that they can come up with a brand and a new concept that they don't have anywhere else in the continent. If you look at Ascot Group, for example, the property they have in Kenya, it's the first brand, or rather apartment that they have, or branded hotel that they have that has food and beverage. So this is the first in the world. So it's very interesting that there's a new concept coming up with the brand when they look at the African needs, or rather the requirements that they have on the different segmentation. But of course, Radisson Hotel Group is on, pushing the sky to the limit. And within just the first half of this year, they had 7 new hotels already done in the African continent. And they're looking at a portfolio of about 1,400 rooms within the end of the year. So it's quite a big growth internationally and local for local brands. And so, it's positive all through. The outlook is positive all through.
Yeah. Tell us about a couple of domestic brands that we should look out for then.
Well, if you look at Sarova Group, they're looking at now expanding within, the parks and just out of cities. So they're now signing up quite a number of hotels, and their projections for next year look very positive. So I think Sarova Group, they have been here. They've had 1900s. So they are looking now out of the cities and looking at branding of in coal cities. So yeah, that's coming up quite big.
Thank you, William. David, how about you? Just tell us about some brands that you like.
Look, yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, going to Daniel's point, really, but I think what's happening now is that the bigger brands have actually realised that there is, you do need to bring life and some sort of lifestyle into hotel apartments, and I think you are seeing new brands coming into the market, or brands that are existing that are actually sort of now adding long term into it, like Moxie's coming into this market now, Mama Shelter is here. So I think we're seeing these sort of brands which are a bit more exciting coming into this sort of the hotel apartment sphere. But from our perspective, obviously we're looking at taking the first collection, which is at the moment just in hotels, but that is very much lifestyle and easy living, if you like. So we want, we will be putting that into the hotel apartments. But Citadines, Ascot, which is one of our partners, who we run a Citadines over here, the Metro Central. Again, they're really looking to rejuvenate the brands that they've got, and they're very much in the long in the hotel apartment market. So a lot is happening, and it's great to see Cheval coming over here. So that's really good. So yeah, there's a lot happening, and the more people that sort of start really taking this seriously, rather than just, as you say, having these boring rooms that Daniel was talking about, but really try and make them a lot more exciting and a lot more good places to work. It's going to force everybody to really look at what the offering that they're putting out there and do something a bit more exciting there. And you're seeing a lot of hotels as well that are actually adapting to this market. So you're finding a lot of the sort of hotels, I'd say, on the edge, if you like, on the edge of town, who are not necessarily getting the sort of occupancies they'd like to get, are now sort of reconverting. They're putting laundries into some of the rooms. They're adding kitchenettes. So you're finding that a lot of companies are really moving and embracing this market, and that's going to go on, I think, for quite some time to come.
Do the majority of new build hotels now incorporate an element of apartments? Is that standard practice?
No, I would say probably not. I mean, you get a lot of what we call mixed use buildings coming up, but I would still say that most of the hotels are still sort of hotels, as it were, and then the residences are residences. You don't get a lot of intermediate. If you do have a mixed use building, then there's very clear lists for the hotel, lists for the residences and what have you. So it is it's not you don't see that sort of get those waters getting too muddied. It's just when hotels decide that they need to go after a different market that you find that they start putting in services that didn't exist before, which are particularly to attract long-term guests.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Right. I'd like to finish up just by asking you all about some development hotspots where you think we will see a lot of development activity, new openings across the extended stay spectrum in your areas. Oh, blimey, the light's gone out in here. I think because I haven't moved for a while. David, let's start with you. And actually, Dubai is an interesting one because, you know, there are new neighborhoods being created in Dubai all the time. So, you know, where should we be looking for? Where do you think let's say 3 years from now will be the...
Yeah, I think you're going to find that, you know, I mean, everywhere really. Dubai South is a big growing area. You know, north of the 611 as well is now developing. You see Damac and other property developers moving into those sort of areas. The second palm, of course, is coming. So, you know, the Jebel Ali palm, which has been mothballed for some time, is now, you know, that is now reopening, and that's going to be massive, to be honest. So, I mean, that's probably a good 10-year development, but it's going to be huge. It's nearly, I think, double the size of the existing farm. So it's going to take up a lot of energy and time, and you're going to see a lot of hotel apartments in there. But of course, Saudi in this region is where things are happening right now. You know, and they expect to have another 300,000 hotel rooms and hotel apartment rooms by 2030. So that's huge. And so, you know, you can imagine, you know, all eyes are pretty much on there.
What about some of the other Emirates, David? I think there's some interesting stuff happening in Sharjah, aren't there? New big new mixed-use communities and so on.
Yeah, no, Sharjah is moving very fast. Ajman as well. You know, you're seeing, and of course, Ras Al Khaimah is going great guns. You know, at the moment with you know, the announcement of Wynn coming there with the integrated resort, you know, which is going to open in 2026, I think it is. So yeah, the Emirates generally, all of them are, you know, really moving forward very, very quickly and seizing the opportunities that you know, that they've seen through the growth of the rest of the UAE. So yeah, Ras Al Khaimah is doing fantastic. Ajman, you know, they've got this great Al Zora complex there, where one of our properties is the Zoya Health and Wellness Resort. You know, and you know, these are developing very, very quickly. So yeah, I think UAE generally is huge, and as I say, you know, Oman is also really, there's a lot of development going down in Oman, you know, significant amount. And they've also, as I say, already got a significant number of hotel apartments there. So they're very familiar with that model.
Yeah, thanks, David. William, which markets do you think will be hotspots across Africa?
Yes, well, the shift is coming to the smaller countries. If you look at the traditional markets, you know, like South Africa and Nigeria, they're not growing as fast as they were before. But if you look at East Africa, Rwanda, and Kenya now, there's a lot of developments coming up, whether mixed use, small units or larger units. And also North Africa, Morocco, Tunisia keep on taking a big chunk of this international branding. So there's quite a big move or shift from the old market, South Africa, Nigeria. They still have a bit of a development, but of branded hotels mostly. But if you look at the other sectors, mostly I'd say East Africa and North Africa. Egypt has also slowed down, but North Africa and East Africa would be the hotspots I'd comment on.
Thank you, William. Daniel, that doesn't leave much of the region for you to talk about, but is there anywhere else you'd like to mention?
No, I would have said the UAE with Ras Al Khaimah included in with Dubai and Saudi, because I don't think there is anything stopping Saudi really. It's a machine that it's taken off and it's going to do its thing. Maybe something else to mention. I think we're going to see. We're already working on both urban and resort, and I would say Cheval Maison de Palm is a bit of an urban resort in that you have West Beaches around the corner or just near you, and you have a rooftop swimming pool with some drinks offering, and you have F&B on the ground floor and a gym and so on. And you can go there for leisure, you can be very comfortable and you can feel like you're in a resort, but obviously it's very urban still. You're not immediately on the beach. But we are looking at projects across Europe mainly at the moment, but they are resorts, but you're introducing the hotel apartment concept. And why wouldn't you want to stay in a hotel apartment when you're in a resort context?
Yeah, excellent. That's a great note to end it on. Thank you, gentlemen. Just going to show a couple of slides before we wrap up. So our next Service Department News webinar is all about technology. Excuse me, I see we've just had a question in about technology-driven resident engagement. I'm sorry, Zara. You're going to have to hold that one over to the next webinar because we don't have time to answer it now. But this webinar is taking place on Thursday, the 9th at 2 p.m. And my colleague Eloise will be chairing that one. Link to register for that is in the chat. Just a little plug for one of our events. Recharge is a great event which moves around different European capital cities each year. We're in Belfast in January. We've been to Amsterdam, we've been to Berlin, Paris, and Lisbon was the last one. There's a link in the info to find out more and to buy tickets. It's a really great interactive event about urban development, hospitality and real estate. If you'd like to work with us at IHM across any of our digital offerings or our in-person events, then please get in touch with one of my colleagues, Rav or Piers, whose contact details you can see on the screen and also in the chat. And I'd just like to say thank you. Thanks to Rove Hotels for sponsoring. Thanks to Daniel, to David and to William for their great contributions today. Thanks to you all for watching. Enjoy the rest of your days and I'll hopefully see you on another webinar soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.